Greetings again from the Oral History broadcast. I'm Ray Mofield from WCBL Radio, and today we're interviewing a gentleman born in Marshall County, lived there for a number of years, served as an agricultural agent in the county. He took his elementary school there and attended Benton High School and went to Murray State a while and then to the University of Kentucky. He's lived throughout the state and now lives in Murray. And his name is Charles Bondurant. His wife is also from Marshall County, and his brother Hurley is a Marshall County and then is now living at Lake Haven. Many of you I know, perhaps nearly all of you in the county, know Hurley Bondurant. So it's a real pleasure to welcome to our microphone for the Marshall County Oral History broadcast, Mr. Charles Bondurant. Greetings and thanks for talking.
Thank you, Ray. I enjoy talking about Marshall County. I remember as a youngster, Marshall County was a pauper county, and sometimes they couldn't even pay their school teachers. I was a school teacher about 1920, fall of 23, the spring of 24, out at Church Grove School, and it seems to me I may have been delayed sometimes in getting my school money check. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But anyway, I taught a one-room school at Church Grove, and the next year, then I taught at my home district that were called one-room school districts at that time, New Constitution, which was, the school was on a part of my father's farm where we grew up near Harvey, near the old Ivy store, and the Harvey community, which is a famous community in Marshall County.
Oh, you talk about famous. I was interviewing a lady one time by the name of Mildred Hoover, and she told me she was an Ivy, and that I believe, if I'm remembering this correctly, they named the town of Ivy after her grandfather.
That's right. He was, I don't remember what his first name was. Part of his name was Harvey anyway.
Yeah.
And he had a post office at one time way back there. My father worked with him some at the post office and the store at spare time.
Now, tell us a little bit about the Bondurant background. Is that a French name?
Yes, it's a French name, and my brother John, Dr. John Bondurant at Lexington, did some research, and of course others had, but he found that John Pierre Bondurant was the forefather of all the Bondurants apparently in the United States. He came over with the French Huguenots and settled in central Virginia.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the base from which it came, and the story is that there was a group of Bondurants and maybe others coming from Virginia as early settlers, and they came down through Tennessee, and the main group moved on to the Fulton area and Hickman area of Kentucky. But there was one who sort of followed his girlfriend into Marshall County and married, and the offspring of those people were our ancestors, of course.
Isn't that a romantic story? That's great.
Yeah.
It shows that on the frontier, people had similar interests.
My grandmother tells us she was a Green and married a Bondurant. She tells of having come, walked behind the wagon part of the way from Tennessee to Kentucky when they came to Kentucky and settled out in the Harvey community there.
Now, then, your father's name was?
George Marshall Bondurant.
He even had Marshall County in his name, didn't he?
Yeah.
That's
and
wonderful.
One of my brother's sons is named David Marshall.
Uh-huh.
So Marshall keeps coming on in there.
And your mother's name was?
Edna Starks.
Uh-huh.
Yes.
Another famous name in Marshall County.
Yes,
there are many Starks.
My grandmother was Rosaline Starks near Hardin, and her son Butler Starks lived with her for years and years, and we used to I can remember visiting there when I was young. I remember distinctly there were several of those girls, sisters of my mother, and they taught school. My mother was a school teacher.
Mm-hmm.
And there were two of them, I think, were teaching maybe in Paducah, and they came home at Christmas time, and one of them brought a crate of oranges, and the other one brought a stalk of bananas.
Well, they were welcome guests, weren't they?
You talk about a grandson visiting his grandmother and enjoying the fruit. I was there.
Oh, I know. I can remember the wild days of the Depression, and I had an uncle named Kelsey Warren who'd married my mother's sister, and they came in from Detroit, and he had a new 29 Model A Ford, and it was about Big Singing Day. No, Tater Day. So we went to Benton and went to Tater Day, and he bought a stalk of bananas. Of course, I thought he was John D. Rockefeller and Henry Ford wrapped up. He was the richest man in the world.
That's about the way these school teacher women were.
Yeah.
Bringing home fruit in quantity like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's wonderful. So you grew up, and did you attend school at Church Grove or?
No, I attended New Constitution.
New Constitution.
Yes.
Okay.
And
then later taught there.
Later taught there 1 year. Yes. When I went to Benton High School in the 21, 2, and 3 there, and there's 4 or 5 of us boys. We drove horse and buggy part of the time, and finally one of the boys got a car, and about 5 of us would. There's a boy by the name of Carl Bohannon that bought a car, and we rode with him then for at least 1 year to Benton High School.
Boy, you were uptown then.
Oh, yeah.
Probably a Model T Ford.
Graduated in Benton High School in the spring of 23. There's a fellow by the name of DeVasier was the teacher, was the principal of the school.
Mm-hmm.
And he thought Eugene Griffin and Early Green and I were the greatest debating team that ever lived, but we didn't make a lot of progress outside of the Jackson Purchase.
Well, Benton was a leader in debate in those days. They continued that on, and I remember reading in the paper not too long ago, it showed a picture of Benton as state champions. I think it was 27, and Hatler Morgan was the coach.
Is that right?
Hatler's at the Bank of Marshall County now, as you probably know.
Yes.
When I was debating in 1940, the Benton debate team was runners-up that year with Eugene Rudd and Rayburn Watkins.
Yeah. Well, I attended Murray State Teachers College one semester in spring of 1924. But then I went back and did the farming. My father was ill at the time, and I had the farming to do on my own. The other boys were gone or out on their own.
You were trying to
I was the
raise
baby.
tobacco and corn.
I had a tobacco crop and corn, yes. And my uncle, who teased me a lot, it was icy Bondurant, and I had a field of corn next to his field of corn, and he thought I was doing some extra things. I'd been taking agriculture under Bill Wittenberg at Benton, and I was doing some new practices, and he made light of some of the things I was doing, but later on he admitted that my cornfield was better than his. So
I remember that when I was going to New Concord High School. I was taking agriculture under Milton Walston, and many of the farmers in the neighborhood, including my father, ridiculed everything they said. So those fellows are farming out of a book. They don't know anything about it.
That's right. But in the fall of 25, I left home, went to University of Kentucky, and my brother, Dr. John Bondurant, he wasn't a doctor then, but was a student there, two years ahead of me. And he insisted I come up there, and he got me a job delivering papers. I delivered the Lexington Herald.
Mm-hmm.
I got up 4 o'clock in the morning to go downtown and get my papers and do this on a bicycle route. And I stayed there regular terms and summers
Mm-hmm.
pretty well. And I went to the University of Kentucky. I'd been in the pig club with the county agent. Robert Clough was county agent in Marshall County, and we'd made a little money. Pigs sold well during the war. And I had about $300, and I went to the University of Kentucky and did work as a paper carrier,
Mm-hmm.
and waited on tables at a boarding house. Sort
Kept
of.
stretching that 300 out a bit.
Yeah, and I graduated, still had the 300.
Well, now that's something. You
I
were.
graduated, had the 300, bought me a used car, and went into agricultural extension service work.
You said you were interested in economics, and I can see you put it to to good use there.
Yeah. Yeah. Then.
So you were graduated there, and then did you go with
the agricultural extension service, and
you went to Owen County?
Went to Owen County and became county agent of Owen County January the 1st, 1929. I stayed there 10 years, went back to the University of Kentucky to work on a master's degree.
Now, while you were in Owen County, you must have made quite a splash in the community. Didn't you impress them enough that they that elected you president of Rotary?
Yes, I did. I was fortunate. I did all right. At that time, we had a strong interest in livestock judging, and I had a class of 4-H boys that I'd worked with and trained in judging of livestock, that is beef, cattle, hogs, and sheep. And we won the state contest at the state fair.
Mm-hmm.
And that let us go to Chicago to the international judging contest at Chicago. Of course, we didn't win up there, and we didn't freeze to death either, but it got down to 6 below and the wind about 40 miles an hour. Lucille had gone with us.
You said Marshall County was never like this.
No, it was cold. And she like froze going around the corners of the downtown Chicago. Chicago there with that cold wind.
40-story buildings and.
Oh yeah. But we had that was things like that helped build a fellow's optimism, I guess you'd say.
Yeah, you kept polishing you from one end to the other. Now, where was the International Rotary Convention in 1933?
It was in Detroit. I went on a bus and attended the national convention. I was interested in Rotary, and of course enjoyed the fellowship with the business and professional men there. At Owenton, we only had about 20 members in the club, but it was a nice experience for me. Then in 1938, I went back to UK, work on master's degree. In 39, there was a lot of activity beginning in Marshall County on account of the Kentucky Dam was to be built, and there were 1,000 farm families in Kentucky who had to move.
Mm-hmm.
That was in the counties of Callaway, Marshall, Trigline, and Livingston. So the TVA felt that these people needed some educational help, and they went to the University of Kentucky and asked that the contract with the University of Kentucky to furnish, they'd pay for some extra personnel in this area. So I was fortunate to get that assignment. Ray Brownfield worked with me. He lived in this county. I moved here in August '39 to Murray. And
Ray Brownfield was later with the People's Bank, wasn't he?
That's right. After going to being in the service, World War II, he went with the banking business. Graham Wilkins came with me and lived in Marshall County and worked Marshall County. Of course, most of the families.
Did he later
most of
go to Graves County?
Yes,
Yeah.
he stayed with Extension Service quite a while, and still lives at Mayfield. Most of these families were in Marshall and Callaway,
Mm-hmm.
and we rode up and down the valley and worked with the people, personal contacts and schoolhouse meetings and so forth, and told them what to look for. We had a rather large list of farms and places that were for sale that they could go look at, and we took them on tours to see farms that were for sale and homes that were for sale. And most of those families found a place out in a community where they could live better and have more facilities, better facilities than they had when they first lived down in the valley there, where the
I guess it was a
also
little bit different farming on hill land than it had been in the Tennessee River bottom.
Yes, we were supposed to help them too on getting started and at their new properties, and many of these people really appreciated that. Of course, some of them were so saddened by the fact that they had to move out that they kind of suspicious of some of us, but we got along real well with the job. And then as the World War II came on, and the TVA had bought land that was not covered by the lake, and incidentally, maybe everybody doesn't know this or think of it, but the lake was filled in 1944.
Mm-hmm.
But in before that, we had rented land in the bottoms in the area that was to be flooded. But that year we didn't rent any that was to be flooded, except some of the fellows wanted to take the risk, and then they had to hustle to get their cattle out or get the corn out
Mm-hmm.
before the water came in, covered it up in 1944. Then I continued on in Extension Service work in this area, worked with test demonstration farm families in the 5 counties that were called Tennessee Valley counties. This was a fertilizer program, an educational program, and I was on the farm business or farm management end of the project.
So you were still working in Marshall County and others?
Marshall County and Callaway County, Trigline, and Livingston.
Mm-hmm.
Insisted on farmers keeping records of their farm business and showing what progress they were making. And we had tours. We had Valley County tours. We'd go maybe to North Carolina one year, Tennessee another year, and we had, I believe, 2 different occasions. We had all of the Valley counties meet here for the annual meeting. They met at one year here at Murray, Kentucky, and one year at Kentucky Dam Village. And I had remained a major responsibility in seeing that program worked all right and everybody got a place to stay and that the program went well. We toured farms that had cooperated in the test demonstration program and made progress. Bill Ed Hendon, for example, here in Callaway County was I'm talking about Callaway County now.
That's fine.
Was one of the leading test demonstration farmers, and there's a fellow by the name of Wendell Binkley worked out of the University of Kentucky, and in cooperation with TVA, they made a movie film
Mm-hmm.
of the progress that was made on his and other farms. And incidentally, recently, Mr. Hendon's been trying to find that film, and
It's been lost?
It's been lost. They've been unable to find it unless they found it recently.
I guess it showed a considerable difference before and after.
He wanted to make a copy of it on a VCR and show it to his grandchildren.
Now that'd be good, and it'd last longer, and you wouldn't need a projector.
Tremendous history could be written of the changes that have taken place in Marshall County and then the whole valley here as a result of the lakes and TVA.
Well, TVA, I think, helped us get rid of malaria a bit, didn't they? And the mosquito problem, they worked in that.
Yeah.
Didn't TVA start to, I don't know what the name of it was, but it seems to me that we got superphosphate or...
Oh, yeah, that was, we got nitrogen, ammonium nitrate, and superphosphate. It was a new thing in those days, and we had farmers that get this at a discount. The farmers that were in the test demonstration program, that's what we called it, would get this fertilizer at a discount, and they'd keep check plots to show how much difference it made in the production of corn or whatever in the fields, and then they gradually come to use this over their entire farm.
Mm-hmm.
And later on we went into what we call a rapid adjustment farm, in which we got a farmer to really go all out and put heavy applications of, and lime had to be included in this deal too. So the TVA had a lot of lime crushed over near Birmingham to build a dam. Well, they didn't crush, well, I guess they did crush to build a dam, but we got TVA to regrind these crushings and make a finely ground limestone available to farm families,
so
to farmers.
They took what essentially was road lime and made agricultural lime.
That's right.
Out of it.
And the truckers haul this from Birmingham to farms in Callaway and Marshall County.
Oh, I know. They included my dad's farm. I was surprised that he went into it the way he used to make fun of my ag courses in high school, but he could, by that time, see the benefits.
That's right. That's right.
Now, you've told some of the most wonderful stories I've ever heard, and I'm sure many people will enjoy this program for that reason, but we really didn't get you married, did we?
No, but that is an important part.
And so we don't overlook that.
Got married to Lucille Hauser, a native of Marshall County, graduate of Benton High School. She worked at, she went to Drones Business College at Paducah and worked working in the law offices at Paducah when we got married. We were married in December the 26th, 1928. And of course,
the day after Christmas.
Yeah, the day after Christmas. And we lived at Owenton then for nearly 10 years, and then to Lexington, then here. And she was delighted that we could come back to live in the Jackson Purchase, and I was too. And we have two children. Dr. James H. Bondurant is an internal medical doctor at the Kaiser Clinic in Los Angeles. He married a Canadian girl and has two boys, 17 and 19. And our daughter, Betty Charles, married Wayne Brown of Providence, Kentucky. They were both graduates of Murray State College, and they both went to Michigan State and got their master's at Michigan State University. And later he got his doctor's degree at the Michigan State University. And her husband, Wayne Brown, is an elementary principal with the city of Lansing school system in Michigan, has been with them for 22 or 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
And they have 3 children, which makes a total of 5. Lucille and I have 5 grandchildren.
Okay, now we've covered almost everything that I can think of offhand, except we didn't tell that you were president of the Murray Rotary Club, and we have a lot of listeners on WCBL in Callaway County, so I'd like you just to mention that and some of your accomplishments.
Yeah, well, of course, I became a Rotarian while I was at Owenton, Kentucky, and was president of that club. Have we mentioned that? President there in 1933 and 4. And of course, I'd been a Rotarian, and when I came to Murray, Ronald Churchill and some of the fellows found out I'd been a Rotarian. They got me in the Murray Rotary Club in 1939. And then in 1940, 1947, spring of 1947, I was elected president of the Murray Rotary Club and served as a member, as president for the 47-48 Rotary year. At that time, we had about 66 members in the Rotary Club at Murray, and it really was a.
You had people like Max Hurt and George Hart.
That's right. Many and numerous members of the business and professional men of Murray belonged to the Rotary Club, and it was I considered it a distinct honor and a highlight of my life to serve as president of the Murray Rotary Club at that time.
Now the
it's hard
International
to think about that
Convention,
being 40 years ago. And
Yeah.
I'm at the International Convention
and that was in
at San Francisco
mhm.
in '47. We drove out and back in a second-hand car.
Now, I understand they were putting on a drive to get every member of the club to contribute to the foundation.
Rotary Foundation.
Now,
yes.
were you successful in that?
Yes, we managed to get that done before my term was out in June 1948. Our club became a 100% contributor. That is, each member had contributed at least $10 to the Rotary Foundation. Of course, the Rotary Foundation today is a tremendous organization that's doing outstanding work all over the world. You know more about that than I do, but
it had to have a beginning.
Had to have a beginning, and we were one of the clubs that gave it 100% support early in the development of it.
Well, that's a fascinating story, and we're grateful for your coming and talking with us. On our Marshall County Oral History today, you've been listening to Charles Bondurant, who now lives with his wife in Murray, and was president, as he's just said, of Murray Rotary in '47-48. He was born in Marshall County. His wife is from Marshall County. He went to grade school and high school there, and so on. So, thanks again, Charles, for talking with us.
Thank you a lot. Enjoyed it.
I'm Ray Mofield. Now we return you to our studio in Benton.